Hi there, Lindsay with Off the Beaten Hook. This tutorial is for my Apricity color block sweater. This is a lengthy video tutorial, but it covers the making of this sweater in its entirety. You will still need the written pattern to follow along with, just to be sure you're making it to your size and measurements. So get that first. Check out the description box below where I'll include links to those patterns. For this pattern, you will need bulky weight 5 yarn in 3 different colors. I use Cascade Yarn's Baby Llama Chunky in this video. I cannot recommend this yarn enough. It is, first of all, a sustainable animal fiber yarn made with 100% baby llama wool, and it is so incredibly soft and squishy. It's like buttery soft and squishy. It's so delicious. I just love it so much. You'll also need 2 sizes of crochet hook, size 7 and 8 millimeter. You'll need a tapestry needle, a handful of stitch markers, and a measuring tape. All right, you guys, so we are going to do a tutorial within a tutorial, and this is going to set you up for the success of changing colors in this sweater. So this is one of the panels that I'm working on, and in the middle of the row, you are going to be changing colors. And with single crochet, this really isn't much of an issue, but since the half double crochet is a little bit taller and you're going to be crocheting here, up, and then back again, and then you have to switch back again to the color B, which is my mustard color here, it can get funky with changing colors, and so you're going to be tempted to snip and tie off and weave in every single row. So I want to show you how to make the color change so that you don't have to snip and weave in, and you can make it look just like this. You can use both of your strands, go back and forth, and have the color change look great on both sides. So there's not even a right or wrong side. So this is what I'm going to just have you do with me. So let's just do a small swatch together just so you can get the technique before you jump right into your sweater, and then you can just do, you know, short little rows and focus on the actual color change rather than doing the full long rows of your sweater. So go ahead and start with your color A. For me, it's this green color. And we will begin with a foundation half double crochet because that's how the sweater starts. And to do that, you're going to slip knot onto your hook and chain 2. 1, 2. For a foundation half double crochet, you're making the chain and the first row of half double crochet at the same time. And this is how you do it. You'll yarn over, just like at the beginning of a half double crochet. Insert your hook into that second chain from the hook. So you'll skip this one and insert into that second chain. Yarn over, pull up that loop. Yarn over and pull through just one loop, and then yarn over and pull through all 3 loops. And that's your first foundation half double crochet. So you just created your chain here on the bottom and your first half double crochet here on the top. So let's do that again together. So yarn over, and now you're going to insert your hook into that chain, both loops of this little chain that you made on the bottom. So yarn over, insert your hook into that chain on the bottom, yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 1, yarn over, pull through 2. Let's do 2 more and then we'll switch to our mustard color and start our color changing. So yarn over, push it through those 2 loops on the bottom, yarn over, pull up, yarn over, pull through 1 loop, yarn over, pull through 2. Okay, and on this 4th one, I'm going to go ahead and change colors and pull in my mustard color during my foundation chain. So in order to do that, you're going to yarn over, push it through the chain on the bottom, yarn over and pull up, yarn over, pull through the 1 loop, and now we're going to yarn over with our new color. So drop the green, bring in your color B, like you're yarning over and pulling through with the new color. Okay, so go ahead and drop the green. Don't snip it again because we're going to be using it as we go through. Okay, So go ahead and bring your green to the back like this, okay? And you're gonna pick up your yellow here, okay? We're gonna yarn over and continue with that foundation half double crochet right into that green chain that you made on the last stitch. Yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 1, yarn over, pull through 3. So that was our 5th foundation half double crochet. You can see it coming together here. I'm gonna zoom in just a little bit on this. So you've got your half doubles up here and you've got your chain coming together along the bottom. Makes a really nice foundation row with no gaps between the chain and the first row. Okay, so let's do 3 more of these together and then we'll turn and I'll start showing you how to do the color change in the middle of the row. All right, so this is gonna be the first little row of our swatch we're gonna make to practice this color change. In this sweater, at the end of the row, you're going to chain 1 and turn. That chain 1 does not count as a stitch. All right, so now we are ready to get going on our second row. So go ahead and you're already in your color B. For me, it's this mustard color, so we're just gonna do half double crochet all the way back to our color change. Okay, so we're at our color change stitch because we're doing 4 in mustard and 4 in green. So in order to make the color change, you're going to begin with your current color with your half double crochet. And instead of yarning over for that last time and pulling through all 3, this is when we're gonna change our color. Here's how we're gonna do this kind of tricky color change so that you don't have to snip off. What you're gonna do is you're going to take your new color that you're going to change to, and you're gonna bring your current color to the front and bring that new color kind of around behind it. Okay? And now bring that into your working yarn and do that final loop, the yarn over and pull through the 3. Okay? So tighten this down a little bit. Tighten your green down a little bit. Now what you're gonna do before you continue on making your 4 green crochets is you're gonna take that old color, the color you were just using, and bring it to the back again. Okay, so it's gonna be on the front when you go back around to bring it into your next row. Okay, so just drop that to the back, leave it there, pick up this new color, and start your next stitches, your 4 stitches. 1, 2. Okay. Stop here and tighten this up just a little bit. You don't want to tighten these color changes or else you're going to cinch this. So you want to be aware of your tension as you're changing the color, because you don't want this middle one to be like you've tightened them all really tight so you don't see it, and now you have created a weird like little bow shape for your entire panel. So just take a little bit of awareness when you're changing your color. All right, so let's chain and turn and make our way back into the middle there. Okay, we're on our color change stitch. So we're beginning our half double crochet in our current color. All right, before we make our final yarn over, we're taking our new color. I use my wrist like this. I'm in my current color. I already have it in my working hand here. I grab the new color and I'm just bringing the old color to the front. Okay, holding it down there for a second while I do my final yarn over with my new color and pull it through. And then you're gonna be tempted to just continue on like this, but don't forget to let go of this and bring it back to the back again. Okay, and now we're picking up our new color, and we're going to do the next 4 stitches. Okay, take care of your little color change there. Just make the tension. Basically, you're just looking to match all the tension for all the other stitches. You'll see this is the loop right here of your last stitch, and if you pull it too tight, see how all of a sudden it went away. It's like, where'd that stitch go? That's going to create trouble with your tension. So you just want to loosen that up and have it match. Chain 1 and turn. And keep going until it becomes natural, because it will. So then by the time you actually are into the sweater pattern, you'll be able to go super quick. So let's go ahead and get started on the pattern for our first panel for the sweater. At this point, we have already made our little test swatch, which has walked us through the foundation half double crochet row, which is how the panel begins. We've also practiced our turning chain, so chaining 1 and turning and doing a repeat pattern back across. And we've practiced how to change colors at the appropriate time on our panel without having to snip and weave in ends. So now that we are actually getting started on the first panel, I'm not going to go super slow during those techniques, because we've already practiced it and by now you are feeling comfortable with those techniques. So I'm making the extra small size sweater in this tutorial. The free written pattern, which I will do a link to in the description box below, has the number of foundation half double crochets for your size. So you can refer to that pattern if you need to do the size that you would like. So we're going to begin by making 15 foundation half double crochets in color A. And then we're going to switch to color B, and we're going to make 30 more. So the first row, the foundation row, is going to be 45 foundation half double crochets. So here we go with 15 in color A, which for me is this green color. So yarn over, insert it into that chain, yarn over and pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 1 loop, yarn over, pull through all 3. And so I'm now about to begin my 15th stitch in my foundation row. And this is for the extra small, the stitch in which we change to color B. So I'm going to begin in my current color for the 15th stitch. And then before I do my final yarn over and pull through, I'm going to add my new color into my working yarn hand there. And I'm going to yarn over and pull through to complete that 15th stitch in green. And now we are ready to just start straight away with the new color. Now I'm not going to snip that. As you know, we are going to continue with 1 continuous yarn the whole way and not have to snip it and weave in. All right, so there's 1 for my new color, and I am going to make 30 in color B for this size. right, so I am done with row 1. This is my foundation row. Got 15 for color A, 30 for color B. Now I am going to chain 1 and turn, and the turning chain does not count. So I'm going to make my way just half double crochet through both loops, all the way back down to my color change point, which is 30 stitches of this color B. All right, I'm at my last stitch here for color B. I'm going to switch to my new color. Again, by bringing, whoa, sorry, I'm dealing with some yarn creep over here. It's giving me some trouble. All right, so again, really quickly, I know we've already gone over this, but we're going to be bringing our new color in from behind. So we're bringing our current color forward, bringing our new color in behind, and yarning over and pulling through. And then the current color goes to the back, and I'm picking up this new color, which is my color A, into my working hand and continuing on with this. So 15 more stitches here, and I will meet you at the end of the row. This is your 1 row repeat. So I will go ahead and let you get on your way with the rest of this panel, and I will meet you at the neckline. All right, I am finishing off my final row of the main rectangle portion of the panel right before I split for the neckline. For me, this is row 40 for the extra small. And for the neckline, we are going to continue straight away in this color A. And I'll show you, I've got a completed panel here so you can kind of visualize what's going on for the neckline. I've got this just 3 short rows on each side that are gonna make the shape for our neckline for us. So right here on my other panel, I just finished off this row 40 right here. So I'm gonna come back and do this row, decrease here, come back like this, right? So that is what we're going to do right now. All right, so based on your size, so go ahead and refer to the written pattern so you know how many stitches to do for the first row of your neckline. So I'm gonna go ahead and chain 1 and turn. And so I'm gonna be doing 15 straight across, which it happens to be actually exactly the amount of just this first block of color. So I'll go ahead and do 15 half double crochet for the first side of this neckline. All right, here's 14, here's 15 stitches for row 41. Go ahead and chain 1 and turn. And we're gonna do a half double crochet decrease for the first stitch of this next row. So to do that, you're going to yarn over, place your hook through that very first half double crochet, yarn over and pull up, and then you're gonna push your hook immediately into the next stitch. Yarn over and pull up. And then yarn over and pull through all 4 of those loops that are on your hook. Now you're just gonna place 1 half double crochet all the way back over. Okay, so that is the second of the 3 rows that are going to create the shape for the neckline. So we're at the outer edge again, so we will chain 1 and turn. And we're gonna make our way straight back down, and we're going to decrease in the final 2 stitches of this row. All right, I am on my final 2 stitches here. So I'm going to half double crochet these 2 together. So yarn over, insert your hook, yarn over and pull up a loop, and then straight into your final stitch of the row there, yarn over and pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through all 4. That's your half double crochet decrease. So that is the first shaping of the neckline. So on this point, you're going to just fasten off, so just pull through and snip. Now on one of the panels, you want to leave a long end tail so that you can sew across the shoulders, the 2 panels together. So on one of the panels, you need to leave that. On the other one, you don't. You just need it on one. So I'm gonna go ahead and snip mine just long enough to weave in my ends on this. So there is the first side, and we will continue straight into the second side here. And on this end, because you do want to keep your rows going in the same direction, we're not going to be starting on this side and going into the center like we did on this first edge. We are going to actually be counting in from the edge and rejoining our yarn here and continuing to work in this direction, just as we started row 41 on this side. So for the size I'm doing, that is 15 stitches. So it's going to be the same number that you made for your row 41 over here. So I'm just going to count 15 stitches in from the end, and that's where I'm going to rejoin my yarn. So 1, 14, 15. So this one right here. So we're going to add our color B onto our hook here. So go ahead and slip knot onto your hook to rejoin your yarn. Insert your hook into that 15th stitch, and you're just going to yarn over and pull through and through. So you're joining with a slip stitch on that one. And we do need to count that 15th stitch for our row. So we're actually going to be making our first half double crochet into that same stitch that you just joined in. So go ahead and begin your half double crochet into that same stitch and count 15, or just make your way all the way to the outer edge. All right, we're at the outer edge, so we're going to chain 1 and turn. And we're going to make our way back down to where we rejoined here, and we are going to go all the way up until the final 2 stitches, and then we're going to half double crochet 2 together with those final 2. All right, I am at my final 2 stitches of that row 41 for the size I'm doing. So I'm going to go ahead and half double crochet those final 2 together. Chain 1 and turn. And we are on our last row of the panel. So for the first 2 stitches, we're going to half double crochet those 2 together. And now we are going to just make our way all the way down, 1 half double crochet in each of those stitches to the end of the row. All right, so our last stitch of the panel. We're going to go ahead and fasten that off. There you have it. So you're going to make 2 of those identical panels, which we will come back and the next time I meet you back here, we're going to be seaming them together. All right, we are back. So at this point, we have completed both of our panels, our front and back panel for this sweater. I have gone through and cleaned up all of my yarn ends on both panels, except for, of course, the one panel that I have my tails that I'm going to use to seam the shoulders together. Go ahead and line them up. And I will walk you through seaming the shoulders together. So it doesn't really matter which side you start on. I'm gonna start on this side. So I'll zoom in on that one. So go ahead and take your tapestry needle, grab your yarn end that you already had left from one of your panels. If you have a preferred method of seaming, mattress stitch, whip stitch, go ahead and just do what you're comfortable with. I'm gonna use the mattress stitch for this. So we've got all of our stitches lined up. We're going to mattress stitch beginning right away in the first stitch of this row. So what you're gonna do for that is take your yarn needle, and you're gonna be going from the inside to the outside through both loops. With whip stitch, you kind of just keep going around and around and around. With the mattress stitch, you're gonna do a little bit more weaving. So under both loops, and then when you come back over to the other side, you're going to go this direction under both loops from the inside to the outside through that first stitch. Okay, you don't want to pull super ultra hard, because if you're doing it really tight, this whole thing is just gonna like pucker together. So you want to do it, you know, you don't want to have a big loose gap on your shoulder seam, but you also, you know, you don't want it to be too tight. So just kind of watch your tension. You can always take it out before you fasten it off on the one side. So back into the other tip of the shoulder under both loops and pull. Inside to outside under both loops. Okay, so pretty straightforward. You're going to go ahead and continue in this fashion all the way to the end of the shoulder. Right, here we are at the end. You don't want to miss that last stitch, which would have been your first half double crochet of that row. All right, good. So just gonna lay it, make sure it's nice and flat, kind of looking like the same tension of your stitches. I'm just gonna fasten it off. I bring it around and come back through the way that you just came. And if you take your yarn end here over your needle, you go 1, 2, loop it around twice and push that right down next to your sweater and pull through that final loop. That will create a knot right there. So when you open it up, the nice thing about the mattress stitch, it just keeps it nice and flat. Sometimes with the whip stitch, you can get kind of a chunky ridge, especially with bulky yarn. So that's what your seam is going to look like. So go ahead and leave it right side facing together, and go ahead and repeat that exact same process on your other shoulder. Seam up from the edge down here, you'll add it down here, tie it off, and seam all the way up to this stitch marker here, and tie it off. And at this point, everything else is going to be done with the right side facing out. So go ahead and flip your sweater inside out and give it another try on if you'd like before you proceed, just to make sure you like the neck opening, you like the arm opening. Gosh, hopefully you do at this point, otherwise there'd be some major undoing. And the next thing that we are going to do is we are going to crochet on the neck collar and crochet on the bottom hem. Okay, I'm so excited because we get to add in our third color. And I'm just like stoked about this color combo. Okay, key point, we are switching from a size 8 to a size 7, just for the ribbing. So we'll switch back to a size 8 when we start doing the sleeves. Okay, and we are going to rejoin into one of these side stitches. I'm starting this very first one by the edge of my seam here. Put your hook in from front to back, and you'll just go ahead and pull through and through with a slip stitch to rejoin. All right, so for the ribbing, what you're going to do is begin by chaining 8, right? Straight away from that slip stitch. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Now this hem is going to add about 2 inches to the length of the sweater. And the ribbing is done by crocheting into the back bump only, back and forth, up and down, all the way around. For this very first chain, I'm going to crochet into the back bump. We're going to skip the very first back bump, that first bump from your crochet hook, and we're going to go straight into this next, the second bump from the hook with a single crochet. The entire ribbing is done in single crochet versus the half double crochet that you've been doing all along. So go ahead and single crochet your way back down, which is going to be 7 stitches. 7. Okay, so this is what you're going to do when you're reconnecting the next row back along your bottom edge of your sweater, is you're going to slip stitch into the next 2 stitches. So here's where we slip stitched when we joined, and then we made our chain, we single crocheted back down, and now we are going to slip stitch into this next one and the next one. Then we're going to make 1 chain and turn and work our way back up this row through the back loop only for those 7 single crochets that we made. Now I'm gonna have you look at this closely before we make our way back up. Apologize, it's kind of a dark yarn, so it might be harder to see. Let me zoom in. This one right here is the back bump that you're going to be crocheting into. So we had our chain that we just did, our slip stitch here, and our slip stitch here. All right? These 3, the chain, the slip stitch, and the slip stitch, are just gonna be getting forgotten about here. You're not doing anything with those. You're just skipping straight to this 7th stitch, all right? So back loop only of this stitch, single crochet your way back up all 7 of those stitches. 1, 2, 7. Okay, chain 1 and turn. Go back down, single crochet, back loop only, back down the 7 stitches. 6, 7. Okay, we're back down to our sweater again. So we're going to slip stitch in this stitch here and in this stitch here. Slip stitch, slip stitch, chain, and turn. Okay, so we are going to be doing this all the way around the hem of the sweater. It's going to bring you all the way back to where you began. Here we are back at the last stitch. Go ahead and slip stitch to that very first one and take a chain, and I'm going to bring these right sides together. So just bring your working loop there to the back. Bring the right sides together. So I'm going to make sure I line up all 7 stitches properly with each other. Okay, we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay, so take your hook. You're going to push it through both loops of this row right closest to you and the back loop of the one behind it, and complete your slip stitch. Okay, so the next one, both loops of the first row, one loop from the one behind it, the back loop, I'm sorry, I should say the back loop from the one behind it, and complete your slip stitch. So 2 loops from this row closest to you, just the back loop from the row right next to it, all the way up. Whoop. Almost grabbed both loops on that one. Okay, there we are. So go ahead and fasten off, snip. And then just weave that in. And there you have the hem complete. See if I can get this all in the picture. So you can see what it does by using a little bit of a smaller hook and doing the slip stitches the way that we did is it brings it in a little bit. So it gives it a little bit of a shape. So it's not just real straight sides. It kind of gives it a little bit of a tapered hem. All right, we are ready to do the neckline. So the neckline ribbing is identical to the hem ribbing that we did. We're going to be using our 7mm hook. We're going to be using color C. I want to show you how we're going to treat these ends of the neckline, the row ends of the half double crochet where we decreased to create this shape. Each of these edges is going to count as 1 stitch. So what I do is I go ahead and take a few stitch markers right up front and mark where I'm going to do my slip stitches or do my stitches. All right, so go ahead and bring in your color C slip knot onto your size 7 crochet hook. So I'm going to rejoin in this final stitch of the neckline of this color. All right, I'm going to rejoin with a slip stitch. So I'm going to yarn over on the back side, pull it through, and then pull it straight through and tighten that down. Okay, so move that to the back. And just like with our lower hem, we're going to chain 8. Skipping this first bump from the hook, I'm going to do 7 single crochets through the back bump of each of those chains. 1, 2, that 7th bump. Okay, so now we're coming to the point where we're going to do 2 slip stitches. That involves these first 2 of the 3 that we made coming up the neckline here. Okay, so we're going to go straight into this one. So I'm taking out my stitch marker there. So we're going to go slip stitch and straight into this next one. This one's the one that might be a little tight because I think that's my turning chain from that row. So I just want to pick up those 2 slip stitch. Again, we want to make them tight. All right, so then go ahead and chain 1 and turn, and we're going to make our way back up through the back bump only of those 7 stitches that we just made. Okay. Of the sweater, and we are now ready to put on the sleeves and the cuffs, and you will be done and you'll get to wear your super comfy chunky sweater. So here is how we're going to begin the sleeves. We are going to crochet them straight onto the sweater, and remember we are switching back to the 8mm hook at this point. If you've never crocheted a border around half double crochet rows before, I would highly recommend having a handful of stitch markers ready at this point, which I've already pulled out a bunch of mine. It is not as straightforward as crocheting into the end rows of a single crochet or a double crochet. So I'll show you a tip on how I make sure that my stitches end up being equally spaced around and make sure we have the proper amount of stitches. So I will say here too that the written pattern, I do all of this math for you just as long as your gauge is exactly the same and you're using the same weight of yarn. I do put in how many rows you would expect to have for the size. I have 13 rows on the front panel here and 13 rows on the back panel that make up the hole to this arm sleeve. So that's the math that I'm going to be using in this video. So what you're going to do is calculate the number of stitches you're going to need. So based on your arm hole here, the opening, count the number of rows that you have. So maybe you're going off of the pattern, maybe you've added an inch or 2 or a half an inch, but count how many you have. So like I said, I have 13. All right, so what I'm gonna do is when you're doing a border of into the end of a half double crochet, you need 1.5 stitches per row. Compared, just for reference, when you're doing single crochet, you're only putting 1 at the end of each single crochet row. So it's really easy to locate. When you're doing a border on a double crochet row, you're putting 2 in the end of each row. So it's a lot more straightforward than 1.5. So what you're gonna do with the math is count your rows. I have 26 rows. And then I'm gonna add 1 for the armpit and 1 for the shoulder. And you're gonna do that for all the sizes. So the math is the same. So when you're doing the math, 26 times 1.5 plus 2 is 40. So for my size, I need 40 stitches evenly around. All right. I have all that written out and the formula and everything in the written pattern. So the reason why I recommend using stitch markers is in order to locate how to evenly space stitches at a 1.5 ratio. Basically what I do is I do 1 in the end of one row and 2 in the end of the next row. 1 in the end of one row, 2 in the end of the next row. That's the easiest way for me to visualize it. So I use stitch markers so that I don't lose my way as I go around. And what I like to do is identify the quickest, easiest place for me to place a stitch at the end of the 1 stitch rows. So as I look, if you can see here, hopefully I've got it zoomed in enough. I'm going to start from the little stitch here. I see a repeat pattern here, and the end of each of these rows, I see a really identifiable 2 loops. Okay, I've got 2 loops here. Skipping this row, I've got 2 loops here. Skipping this row, I've got 2 loops here. So basically I'm going to place my stitch marker in each of those stitches all the way up on this one side. So we'll start by doing that. Okay, so I'm just doing this one side for now just so that you can visualize how I'm doing this. So I've got a stitch marker marking the end of where I'm going to place 1 stitch at the end of each of those rows. And so I know with my math, I'm going to have to place 2 stitches in between each of those markers. 1 here, 2 in between, 2 in between, right? So again, we are on our size 8 hook, right? So I'm going to go ahead and introduce my yarn into that very first stitch. Okay, so that is a stitch, so I'm going to place a half double crochet in there. So I'm going to go and begin. Row 1 of my sleeve is half double crochet evenly around in the number of stitches that is required for your size. Okay, so I'm going to half double crochet right into that stitch where I just did my slip stitch. Slip stitch does not count. I'm going to go ahead and, excuse me, I'm going to mark that first stitch just so I don't lose it. Okay, and again, I know I need to do 2 stitches before I reach the stitch marker. And I'm going to place it in this little A and in this little A right next to it. Okay, so there were my first 3 stitches in that 2 rows. Okay, so I've got 1 row here, 1 row here. So I did 1.5 stitches for each row. Okay, take out my stitch marker. I'm going into that next one. So now I know I've got to place my 2 stitches here before my next stitch marker. Right, so I am at my last stitch here, which is going to go into the seam of which I made up the side of the sweater up to the armpit. So I'm going to go ahead and place 1 right into the seam there. All right, and here is my very first stitch of that round. So with the sleeves, we're going to be doing continuous rounds. We are not going to join the rounds. We're just doing continuous rounds around and around and around. So for round 2, and this is the same for all sizes, what we're going to do is we're going to half double crochet all the way around until you get to the last 2 stitches of the row, and then we're going to half double crochet those 2 together. And that's the same for all sizes. So row number 2, half double crochet all the way around until you get to those last 2 stitches, and then half double crochet those together. All right, I'm coming around my last 2 stitches here. So these final 2 stitches of the row, I'm going to half double crochet those 2 together. Yarn over, insert it into that next stitch, pull up a loop, and go straight into that next stitch, pull up a loop, crochet those 2 together. All right, so that was round 2. Round 3 is identical to that one. So again, just continue straight away. Do not turn. Keep going in the same direction, and you do not need to join with a slip stitch or anything. You're going to go straight into your next stitch here, and it's going to be identical to row 2. So you're going to half double crochet all the way around until the last 2 stitches of the row, and then you're going to half double crochet those last 2 stitches together. So I will see you then. All right, here we are again to the final 2 stitches of row 3, and we are going to half double crochet those final 2 stitches together. All right, so we're at the end of row 3 here. All right, so from here forward, for about half of this length of the sleeve approximately, we're just going to be doing repeat rounds all the way around. Bam, 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 bam. And that's the same for all sizes. The only thing that's different is just the number of rows, because this is where we're going to get a little bit longer for the different sizes. Also, if you know you want a certain length of sleeve, you can add rows or remove rows here at this point. And then the final several rows of the sleeve pattern is going to be the same for each size, and we're just decreasing every other row by 1 stitch just to create a little bit of shape down to the cuff. And I'll come back together with you as we start to decrease, of course, and we'll do that together, but maybe you can get a little bit of a visual of the shape of the sleeve, just a very subtle decrease. So it doesn't end up being a balloon sleeve. It's definitely nice and roomy for this nice chunky cozy sweater, but we're going to just be decreasing from, I don't know, I'd say like about right here down gently, and then the very last row is kind of a big decrease row, and then we switch to our size 7 and we put on our cuff, which brings it in even a little bit further. So we'll do all of that together, but just so you kind of know what's upcoming. So you're going to be, I'm going to let you go here, and you're going to do about this much of the sweater on your own, just half double crocheting around. There's no decreasing, there's no increasing, there's no joining rounds. Just get in the flow and go for it, and I will meet you back. Okay, guys, coming in hot at the end of round 18. Can't wait to get this sweater on me. All right, so there we have it. We have finished that long section of up to row 18, or whatever row that's going to be for your size, whatever corresponding row for your size. And there we have it. So you just have this nice straight upper part of your arm. And from here on, so again, let me just mention again, this is the point where your opportunity to either make the sleeve shorter or make it longer is. Because this is your repeat row. And then from here, we're going to be shaping down. So it's a little harder to modify that part. Not impossible by any means, but a little bit harder. But I'll go ahead and do these 2 rows with you and then set you off on the repeat. All right, so row 19, we're half double crocheting all the way around till the last 2 stitches, and then we're gonna half double crochet 2 together on those last 2 stitches. All right, made it around to the end of row 19. I've got these final 2 stitches. I'm going to half double crochet those 2 together. Okay, so I don't know, sorry if you hear my baby in the background there. She just woke up just in time. All right, so your next row is simply going to be half double crochet all the way around. And then your next row is going to be the same as this one that you just did, where you're going to half double crochet all the way around up until the final 2 stitches and then decrease those. So every other one, bam, 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 and do 1 decrease row, 1 row all the way around, 1 decrease row, 1 all the way around for 16 rounds. And then we will do the cuff together. So I will see you at that point. Guys, I am finishing up my row 34, which is my final row of the sleeve prior to the very final row, which is kind of a big decrease row. Please excuse my obnoxious band-aid, if you will. In the meantime, I cut myself, and it's, I guess, a dead giveaway as to the stage I am at as a parent, that the only available band-aid I have is monster eyeballs. Honestly, I think they're pretty radical, so I'm not complaining. Anyway, okay, so here I am. I have 1 more row to do before the cuffs. This row is going to be a sequence of 2 half double crochets and then a half double crochet decrease. 2 half double crochets, then a half double crochet decrease. You're going to repeat that all the way around. No matter what size you're working on, that is going to be the repeat all the way around. No matter where you're at, right now your stitch count should be divisible by 4. So I'll get you started off here. So we're going to do 2 half double crochets. I'm going to mark my first one there. And then a half double crochet decrease or half double crochet 2 together next. Okay, so let's do that again. Half double crochet 1, half double crochet 2, half double crochet decrease. Okay, so again, go ahead and just repeat that pattern all the way around. Fasten off and weave in the end because you're going to be doing the cuff in another color. Okay, so we're switching back to the smaller size like we did for all of the ribbing. Now for the cuffs for the ribbing for the cuffs, I do a length of 8 stitches, which is a little bit longer than I did for the neck and the hem. So in order to have our ribbing be 8 stitches long, we're gonna chain 9. So go ahead and we just slip stitched there to re-add the yarn. Now I'm gonna chain 9. And then back bump, skip that first back bump and place a single crochet in the second bump from the hook there. Okay, so all the way down, you're gonna have 8 single crochets back down. Seven, and this is my last one. 8. Right, so then we're gonna connect it back to the last row of the sleeve. We're gonna slip stitch in this next stitch and the one right after that. So we'll slip stitch, and make 1 chain. Okay, and then we're gonna turn and work our way back up that ribbing through the back loop only of those 8 stitches. So remember, we are going to be skipping that chain we just did and those 2 slip stitches and starting straight away into the back loop of that single crochet right there. Okay, so there's going to be 8 of them all the way back up to the end. 1, 2, 8. Okay, chain 1 and turn. So you're basically just working turning rows back and forth, making your ribbing. So again, that chain is not counting, it's just a turning chain. It doesn't count as a stitch. So you're going to be making a single crochet through the back loop only into that first single crochet, and 8 all together. All right, so I am going to let you on your way, and I will meet you at the end of the ribbing, and we will do the seaming together again. Okay, so here we are. I've got the ribbing complete on this sleeve. I'm going to go ahead and take a slip stitch. Oh, that was where I began. Go ahead and slip stitch there to the first stitch where I began. All right, and chain. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring this, just like I did with the other ribbing that we did together. I'm going to bring it to the inside as I want to slip stitch this close. So bring your working loop there to the inside, and we will slip stitch up those 8 stitches. Right, so holding both of those stitches together. Okay, we're going to go under both loops of this first row, and then under the back loop only of these loops here. Back loop only, slip stitch. Okay, continue that all the way up. All right, here's number 8. Okay, finding that back loop on that second row. Slip stitch. Okay, go ahead and fasten off. Snip that. And there you have your sleeve. There is our completed sweater. Oh my gosh, I love it so much. These colors are so fun. This yarn is so squishy and delicious. So that concludes the tutorial for this chunky color block sweater. If this video was helpful for you, please click the like button below and subscribe to my YouTube channel. And don't forget to sign up on my website, offthebeatenhook.com, so we can keep in touch and where you'll be the first to know about new patterns, resources, and video tutorials. See you next time.